Then we'll start the music. Right, here we go. Welcome back to episode 244 of the Tall Boy Radio podcast. And as we always say, who knows where it goes when the beer flows? Well, that beer can flow just about anywhere tonight, as we're going to be talking about travel, one of our favorite topics that we like to talk about here on Tall Boy Radio. We did an episode last year called Travel Like a Tall Boy, and this is our follow-up to that. We're going to be talking about some of our trips. Now, Gaz isn't going to be with us tonight. He had a very peculiar dream on the weekend that he was telling me about in great details, where he was checking a dog's prostate or something like that. It was very, very weird. But, you know, he told me about that in great length. Never mentioned once that he wasn't going to be here tonight. But hey-ho, we'll move on and we'll do just fine without him because Dave's here. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm all right. Thank you, Adam. Good evening. Good evening, listeners. Welcome to episode 244. Looking forward to this. We've got a guest tonight, a friend and colleague of mine who's going to introduce herself in a moment. And I asked briefly how many countries she'd visited, and it took her a while to come back to me. So looking forward to learning all about them.
Indeed. So as Dave says, yeah, rather than Gaz talking about his travels, and one thing we know about Gaz, you know, he's been on his holidays quite a few times this year, not just to Turkey to have his teeth done. He has been all about visiting places. I can't even remember. I know he was in Malta or somewhere recently that began with an M. But Verity, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? Why Dave Pressgang's your last minute to join us on the episode?
Sure. So I work with David. I'm working at my staff shop with David, and so that's how I know him. And I'm also a journalist, a freelance journalist, so I do that as well. And I like traveling. I've spent quite a lot of time traveling and living in different places, so I think that's probably why David strong-armed me into this evening. But I'm always happy to talk about travel. Really, that's a great passion of mine. So yeah, anything you need to know, I can talk about all the deals I find, because I'm quite good at finding good deals. My family have started to come to me, actually. They sort of give me a bit of a brief, and they'll say, oh, I want to go here, and kind of expect me to put a package together for them, but don't pay me. So maybe I should be a travel agent. Who knows?
You definitely need to start charging for that. And maybe if we can give out a few tips on how to save some money for your holidays tonight, then I think people will definitely take something away from that. So a couple of the places we were chatting about earlier, you know, so you've lived abroad as well. So you were telling me at the start. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? How you find yourself living in those different places?
Yeah, sure. I kind of, when I got to about 18, I decided I just didn't want to be in the UK. I just wanted to go. And quite a lot of my friends sort of had gone off to France, just kind of decided to go. And so quite a few of us ended up going off to France. We were there for I was there for about a year and maybe 18 months in total. And we kind of got together a little like fire juggling show, went around all the festivals and did that kind of thing. I wasn't fire juggling because I was not good at it, and I kept dropping the balls on my head and it wasn't great. But it kind of gave me a passion for travel. I learned how to speak French, and that once I'd sort of done that, I didn't really want to come back. I did come back for different periods of time. Maybe I did some study and then went back again, and then I ended up going to India and traveling around India for a while. I had a friend who lived there, so I went to see them, and then ended up buying a ton of stuff, as you do in India, really cheaply, and then decided to move to Holland to sell everything on Queen's Day, which is a big festival they have every year at the end of April. And it's like a free You can sell anything you want. And everybody just has like stalls on the streets. Everyone gets very drunk. So we were selling like tequila shots and all this stuff that we bought from India. And I ended up staying there about 2 years. I got a really nice job, and I loved Holland, and Amsterdam in particular was just fabulous. So that's why I ended up living there. And then over the years, just different places like Brussels and in Spain for a while, and France and that kind of thing, really. So that's where I lived. But it was great. Picked up languages, and I just think it's a really good thing to do. And if you can ever get a chance to go and live in another country, even just like a sabbatical for like 3 or 4 months, just to try something different, I think that would be really valuable for a lot of people and give them a different view of the world. So that's what I did.
It's fun enough, actually, because this episode really is in stark contrast to the episode we did last week, where we had Deborah, who was very keen to move to the UK. Now we're talking to somebody who was quite keen to get away from it. But I think with both, the common theme in both episodes is that sort of enrichment from the different experience of different cultures. Now, a couple of the places you mentioned there, I visited some of those. So my dad used to live in India. He lived in Goa and Salago in particular, I think. He lived there for quite a few
I know
years.
that. I know.
Oh, do you really?
I've been there.
That's
I
fair
think,
play. Fair.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so the properties there were
Loved
like,
Goa. I thought
yeah.
that was.
Oh, sorry, Karen.
Sorry, I missed that.
No, I was saying the properties there were all Portuguese properties, and he had one of those for quite a while. And yeah, so he lived there for quite a few years. Started going there on holiday, absolutely loved it. Was going for longer and longer and longer, and then eventually ended up moving there. So tell us about that then, because culturally, India and Goa have been my only real experience of it. Although I visited Mumbai briefly, is very, very different to the UK, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I found in India, we were there for about, I can't remember how many months it was, maybe 5, 6 months. I had a friend who lived in Goa. So we planned to sort of travel down to see her. And I ended up, I think anybody who goes to India ends up having some funny stories to tell about it. And we had no budget, and no budget in India means you're not staying in very nice places at all. And we ended up getting a car from, we were in Pushkar in Rajasthan, and the car drove all the way down to Goa, and it was passed through 5 states. So we drove through 5 states, but the guy driving the car was like 15 years old. And I just remember him driving past a bus that was like crashed on the side of the road. And he was like, "Oh, that's my bus. I used to drive that." And I was just like, "Oh my God, I'm going to die on this trip." But we got down there. We went with the hotel manager. So he was Indian, and he kind of like showed us the ropes and everything. And I think quite a few people drove down there, because Goa, you can drink alcohol. So they'd go down there and they'd have a few drinks, and then they'd sort of go back again. But it was a very exciting and strange journey, but lots and lots of experience as well. But I would recommend it, but I think I'd go with more of a budget this time, and stay in somewhere a bit nicer, because we did get quite ill as well.
Well,
happens a lot in India.
If you go to India, there's 2 things you should expect: bad driving being the first, and frankly, I think he's very brave for driving in India, because I couldn't do it. Utterly terrifying. And second of all, you're almost guaranteed to get a little bit of the belly off some of the food.
Oh, I was hallucinating. I was hallucinating. I had a whole week that me and my friends were just really ill, and we did have a hole in the ground toilet kind of thing as well. It was not pretty, and I remember writing a letter to my mum, a sort of like last will and testament to my mum, because I was so ill. And we ended up going to the doctor on like day 5. I don't think I'd eaten anything, just sips of water, and the doctor just gave us like 2 pills, like a green pill and a pink pill, and was like, "Just take them." We took them, and we were better within like a few hours. And I just can't believe I wasted like a whole week vomiting when I could have got well really quickly. Because they're used to treating people, aren't they? They know what's wrong, and they know how to deal with it, and they know how to make you better. So I think next time I will be more inclined to, be careful. And I didn't take my malaria tablets either, so that was probably a bit stupid, because I think, I was young and foolish, I guess.
I must admit that with those malaria tablets, first of all, they weren't very nice anyway. I stopped taking mine the second I got back in the UK, because I thought, well, I ain't got malaria. It'll be fine. It would have come out by now. Yeah. So medically, I was a little bit older as well, so I've got no excuse. But no, in terms of the food, I think we ate at a festival. We went to I think it was a Sikh festival, or it might have been no Hindu, sorry. And we were eating thali dishes, and I hadn't washed my hands. And I suspect that's when I picked up whatever it was that I picked up that lasted, a little bit longer than 24 hours. I don't mind telling you. Dave, have you got any experiences?
I had quite a few of those.
Yeah, I bet.
No, I've not been to India. So no, most of my travel has been fairly safe in that respect. Certainly not having to rough it on a zero budget or to eat food and stuff where I'm likely to get ill. So no, I'm afraid I'm probably nowhere near as brave as Verity sounds like she was. And Verity, when you wrote that letter home to your mum, what did your mum think when she received that letter? You're all the way around the other side of the world. You're writing a letter saying you're really poorly.
But she still got it. She gave it to me recently, and she said, "Look what I found." Gave it to me, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I sort of remember writing that. I really wasn't well, and I was like hallucinating all kinds of different things. So I'm not sure if I wrote it during the hallucinations or after. But it was a little bit sort of sad and depressed, if anything. Like, I'm having a good time, but. This is good, but there's lots of like buts. I don't think I wanted to make it sound bad because I'd spent like months saving up the money to go there. It was such a big thing. It was, I was really excited about it, and I didn't want to sort of admit to having gotten ill. But I mean, that was one of many times I got ill when I was out there. So, I think by the end of it, I think I must have picked up some kind of parasite, to be honest with you. I was really not very well, but I would do it differently next time. And this was quite a while ago. I'm sure things have changed a little bit since then.
Maybe. So speaking of hallucinations, you also lived in Amsterdam then as well, where you can hallucinate for much better reasons.
Yeah, nice segue there. Yeah, I did. I lived there for 2 years, and that's where I went with all the stuff from Queen's Day. And yeah, I mean, I've got some funny stories to tell about Amsterdam. I mean, that's a place that really is just, I won't go into it all, but it was a very interesting place to live and work. And I ended up, I was working in the red light district, but not as, I wasn't in the red light district, but I worked in a hotel in the red light district.
Special
and
hotel.
became kind of good friends. Yeah, some of the friends with the ladies in the windows, they were lovely, really nice. And you sort of say good morning, and sort of, it was a very surreal environment to work and live in. But it was fun, and the standard of living was really good. The jobs, I mean, I was cleaner, and I had really good salary, and we used to get loads of free stuff. And we had Westlife, they were in the hotel. I remember looking after Westlife and stuff. So, it was a really fun time. And I think if I went back again to do it, I wouldn't change anything with that. It was absolutely brilliant experience. I learned some Dutch. I made really lifelong friends there. I got a really good job working for a market research institute. Things progressed really well, and I would have probably have stayed. I tried to go to study at university, but it's quite hard to get the paperwork right there. Everyone's subletting. It's really oversubscribed with people wanting to stay there. And I just couldn't get the address I needed. And I ended up coming back to the UK. But it was regretful. I would have loved to have stayed out there. It's a really magical place. And the Dutch are a real great bunch of people. They're characters. So all in all, it was great. I would recommend Amsterdam in particular. I must say, I didn't really travel a huge amount outside, because if you're living somewhere and working somewhere, you just kind of getting on with it. And Amsterdam's got an awful lot to offer anyway. So I went to Haarlem and Zaandam and some of the close places, but I didn't really go much further than that. And I've been back a few times since. I really want to take my kids with me, because I think they will really, really enjoy it. There's two sides, isn't there? There's obviously the side I mentioned in the stag do's and all that sort of thing. But there is also a really lovely traditional side with the brown cafes, and there's lots of festivals and really nice cultural events that go on there. Really great design, shopping, all the art, obviously, and museum. in the museums and what have you. So yeah, it's a really good destination. I'd say, Dave, if you haven't been, it's a definite place to go for a nice long weekend, sitting on the boat, going around the canals, and avoiding the bikes and the trams, but it's all part of the fun. I have to say.
I think I have been to Amsterdam. Is that where the Gustav Klimt Museum is? Gallery?
The Rembrandt one, I've been to that. I've been to the Anne Frank Museum. I haven't been to the Klimt one, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have been there. I've got not great memory, but I'm pretty sure I have.
No, yeah, you are quite famous for your memory, and not from remembering. It has to be said. Now, Amsterdam is a fantastic city, and like you say, it is very commonly, when you think about Amsterdam, unfortunately, people think it's synonymous with stag doos, weed.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, those things are available in abundance there, absolutely. But I've said exactly the same thing to my wife. We went probably, or maybe 10 years ago now. So, my kids are nearly 8 and 5. And it's one place I said I'd love to take my kids back to because it is very family friendly. Sitting out in the squares and enjoying the drink. It is an absolutely beautiful city. Although with my kids, they can be a little bit of a liability, and there's a lot of canals there, and they're not great swimmers.
Well, I'll tell you what, Christmas is a good time to go. I was lucky to be there for 3 Christmases, and they have the St. Nicholas, which is the where the children put their shoes out. I think it's the 5th or 6th of December. They put their shoes out, and then Santa Claus, he puts little sweets in their shoes, and people give each other lots of almond paste filled items, food items, letters of the name like in chocolate, and it was really a lovely time of year. They in Dam Square, they put a huge ice rink and have like hot chocolate and oliebollen, like these sort of kind of like donuts that people have, and everyone's eating donuts, drinking hot chocolate and skating, and it's very traditional. It doesn't feel overly commercialized. It is a little bit, obviously, because people are selling stuff, but much like the German markets and things like that, it's got a really lovely feel to it. Doesn't start too early. I just went to the shop before, and it's full of stocking fillers right next to the till. Had all the stocking fillers, and I was like, gosh, we're not even at the end of September and it's already there. You don't kind of get that over there. And I think Northern Europe as well, I've been up to Copenhagen and Sweden, and those places as well, very similar with that kind of vibe. It's Christmassy, it's festive, but it's not rinsing money out of everybody at any given moment. And I like that. If you're going to be cold, you want to at least be cold and sort of cheerful and not feeling begrudged because they're taking money off you.
No, I did 25 years in retail. We start getting our Christmas stuff in around about August, so I used to get very, very sick of it.
Yeah. Same in journalism, writing articles in July for Christmas. I used to work on a craft magazine. We used to have to do the whole setup, Christmas trees, baubles, everything, middle of July, hot outside, doing fake snow and what have you. It wasn't nice.
Why don't you just do them like the Christmas before, the winter before? Then you don't have to fake so
much. Trends. That'll be out of fashion, won't it?
Well, not if you make something up and that becomes the trend.
Yeah, I'm sure that would work.
Just humour him.
Just nod and smile.
Nod and smile. Yeah.
Well, every Christmas we do a certain amount of episodes that we record in advance. One of the things we did last year was, Room 101, where you put things you don't like into there. We do that every Christmas. Dave wanted to put Christmas presents in it last year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, why not?
Well, all of them.
Yeah, you don't need Christmas presents. It's just incredibly bad for the environment. It causes a lot of stress, a lot of aggravation, a lot of financial pressures. There's very little, if any, good comes from it.
Well, we're doing the 4 gift thing this year. That was the plan anyway. Where you buy something you want, something you need, something to wear, something to read, which is a 4 gift max then. And you ask, I'm aiming to do this with the children as well. And if I can, I think that's a really useful thing, because I would like, this, I need that, I'll read that and I'll wear that. I think that's a really good idea. And it it cuts down on the spending. It just means that you're getting things that you want. We do a Secret Santa as well in my family. So I pretty much get one thing I want. And that is genius, I think. So I'm going to try and promote that across the entire family this year if I can, and see how it goes. And I'll let you know, David, if it works.
Well, I'll send you my 4 things, Verity.
Okay. Yeah, I'll send the list right on back to you.
Yeah, exactly. Lump of coal off what Dave will be getting this Christmas. That's all he deserves. Bless him.
Yeah.
So Northern Europe, like I say, it is. There's again very different culture there. So never been to Copenhagen. It is one of the places I'd love to visit. My daughter, when she was a very young child, was absolutely obsessed with the song about Copenhagen for whatever reason. She absolutely loved it. Wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen. So it's one of the places I've looked forward to visit. So we were in Norway this year. We took a cruise up there, P&O Iona, the ship, if you're very familiar with it, I don't know. But yeah, we did a cruise down the Norwegian fjords, and I have to say, very, very beautiful part of the world. Yeah. Have you
I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, okay.
To Norway? No, I haven't. I've been to Copenhagen a few times. I took the children there, and we did a trip to Sweden as well. Highly, highly recommend Sweden. We were absolutely just loved it. I love Copenhagen, and I think the Danish people, in my experience, are so friendly, so welcoming, so warm. I remember we turned up quite late. All the whole of the city had loads of roadworks, and all the buses had been detoured, and me and the kids turned up at like 11 p.m. off our flight, and we were just stuck. I was on the bus somewhere, and I was like, we're going out of the city, just doesn't feel right. And I ended up asking somebody, and can you help us? And everybody did everything they could. They ended up putting us in a taxi, telling us which stop to get off. They were so helpful. I felt really safe. It feels like a very safe place, and very, people really care, and they are happy to sort of talk to you. And the same in Sweden, they were just so friendly. And I think one of the things that I've found in terms of where I like to travel, it comes down a lot to the people. And, you can go somewhere that's beautiful. You can go somewhere that's, you can tick things off your bucket list. But I go back to places where I like the people. Morocco is a really good example of that. I just have had nothing but amazing experiences every time I've gone. So these have become places that I've ended up wanting to become familiar with. And I think that's one of the things about travel I personally like, is getting to know another area of the world that you didn't know existed, that people walk those streets all the time. They go there, they do their thing, and you're completely oblivious. You have no idea that goes on. And then when you sort of become part of that world, and it exists, you get to know it, you get to know the people, and it's just really enriching for your life, I think. And that's what I think travel does for me personally. That's probably the thing I like most about it, the sort of cultural assimilation that you get. It makes all the difference to me. It's not just a tourist thing. And I maybe I'm a bit of a travel snob like that, because I generally don't stay in hotels anymore. I will try and either stay with people that I know if I can, or do Airbnb or Vrbo or something like that, and just stay in a house that is in a neighborhood that you can get to know. And it really changes the way you travel. I know this isn't for everybody, though. There's a lot of people that are really anti, staying somewhere that isn't all inclusive. They say, oh, my holiday is for completely relaxing on the beach. I don't want to have any stress. I'll go on the day trips and all that. And I can appreciate that. I understand that. But I think they're missing a trick by not pushing themselves out of their comfort zone a little bit. So just my opinion on that.
No, I know exactly where you're coming from with that. I absolutely know what you're saying. You do get a much more fully rounded experience when you do it the way that you're doing it. When you're meeting people from that culture and you're integrating them into the society, it is a much more rounded experience. Talking though of like visiting places that you've been to before, Dave, have you ever done that, Dave? Do you ever go back to a place that you loved that, so I'm going to go back there?
Well, yes, but not probably as much as we'd like to. I mean, Verity, you mentioned when a place feels really safe, it's really nice. And I know me and Catherine went to Vienna, and it was 20 years ago now, but it's probably the safest, cleanest, friendliest place that I've ever been to as a foreigner, and just felt completely at ease. And it does leave quite a strong impression when you've had that experience. We like Verity says, when we tend to go on holiday, if we're going to France or to Germany or places like that, we tend to stay out of the main tourist areas, and we will just rent an Airbnb or a house that's in a rural area that's not very busy, because you can use that as a base, and you feel like you're actually in the more of a cultural experience, and you can still then travel and go and see the particular sites. But yeah, there's a particular place in France we've been to twice. Just rent a house, a guy called Thierry, lovely house in the middle of nowhere effectively. There's a cottage in Wales that we've been to twice. Again, it's just in the middle of nowhere, and we just really like that. You can just open your front door and see nothing. That for us is kind of relaxation. You know, every day you might be out and about, but to come back to have nothing around you, I think is what we really like, whether it's in this country or abroad.
France is good for that, I think, as well. It's got so many. If you go, and any area of France is different. You know, there's so many different types of landscape, inland lakes, coast, mountains. It's a really good country for people who perhaps want to try traveling but don't want to go too far. They can get lots of different things in that area. So I think that's always a good one. Good tip there for you.
Yeah, and it's very different.
It's so close.
It is, yeah. And we drive, so you know, we've been to the east, to the west, in Brittany, in Normandy, somewhere in the middle, which I can't remember the name of. And then when we've been on the east near Metz, we've then been over to Germany, because it's just over the border, or into Brussels, and it's just great. We find it a really great base to get out and about.
Yeah, I agree.
In terms of repeat travel, there's one for you. So the cruise that we just been on to Norway, I enjoyed it so much, and the wife enjoyed it so much, the kids absolutely loved it, that we've booked it again for next year, in exactly the same week that we done this year, purely and simply because it's a bank holiday Monday when we get the back. The wife works in the banking industry, so she's guaranteed to get the Monday off as well afterwards. Not only that, we booked it exactly the same week. We liked the room we were in so much; it's in such a good position that we booked the exact same room on the ship again. Of all the 5,000, whatever there was available on there, we booked exactly the same room. That's how much we enjoyed it.
Do you think that could go to year 3 and 4, or because I guess going back somewhere you're familiar with because it's just nice. By doing that, you're also denying yourself the opportunity of trying new things and different things. So I suppose it swings and roundabouts, isn't it? There's a limit, I guess. If you want to do both, you can't really do both all the time.
No, you're right there. One of the things this time. So when obviously my wife's father passed away a couple of years ago, and while he was poorly, one of the things that him and his wife, my wife's mum, said that they'd do is they wanted to do this cruise down the Norwegian fjords, and we loved it. And then we thought, you know what, it'd be great if Sue could come with us this year. So we booked it, and she's in the room next door to us. So hopefully she'll have a great experience as we did. So what I do again, and funnily enough, actually, when you talk about repeat travel, Dave, what I do it so many times. As much as I love Las Vegas, and I've spoke about how much I love Las Vegas, I've been there many, many times. It's probably one of my biggest regrets in terms of travel is that we went there so many times that we could have visited other places in the USA or wherever. But I think we went like 4 or 5 years in a row to Vegas, and we loved it. Spent all the time on the Las Vegas trip, did a few little bits and bobs off of it. But yeah, it probably is one of my larger regrets in terms of travel is that we visited that place as many, many times as we did. Although I loved it, I've loved every minute that I've spent there. I do regret that maybe I could have spent a little bit of money and gone elsewhere. I don't know. What about yourself, Verity? Is there any place like that? Is there any place that you've been to and regretted
it? No, I don't think so. I think I've been either lucky or smart, and I've generally enjoyed everything I've done. I've had not great experiences maybe in some places, but not nothing really. I didn't like. I stay in Brussels quite a lot, but I didn't like Brussels very much. I didn't think I didn't feel safe there at all, and it felt. When I have to say this, I always feel like I'm gonna get people hating on me for saying it. I just didn't feel it was all that. I went to see the Mannequin Piss. You know the Mannequin Piss.
Oh, yeah.
Went to see it, and I was just like, oh, is that it? It's you know, I just was like, wow, this is really what they talk about. So yeah, I didn't like that so much. Again, I had friends there, so that was nice, but that's pretty much yeah, that. No, not really. I think going to sort of touristy places like Menorca, you know, they're pretty, but they were quite touristy. I did just go to Venice last year for the first time. It was like my first time in Italy, and I had an incredible trip, but I chose the wrong time to go. I went in August, and we had an amazing apartment, really right in the middle of well, it was about 2 streets away from St. Mark's Square, and it was just perfect. But you got out of the door, and you had to like take a step and just go with the throng. Literally, you were just like carried off like floodwaters. It was so incredibly busy, and I think the only time we actually got any like good photographs and things was really early in the morning or really late at night, when I think it's all the cruises. They come in, don't they? All these big cruise ships come in. People just trundle around. They go to Rialto Bridge. They go to St. Mark's Square. They walk around and then they go. And I found that a bit stressful. And I felt a bit sort of like, damn, I should have thought about that. So hopefully next year, my friend and I who went together, we're going to go to the Carnivale, which is in February, end of January, February. And that's with the masked sort of season where they have all these like festival. It's like a festival, masked festival. And that's meant to be fabulous. And I think if I get my tickets soon or soonish, then I think I should get them for some really good price. So I learned that. So, I mean, I got something good out of it because I learned not to go there ever again in August. And I loved the experience of being there so much that I decided to go back at a better time of year. So that's probably my most negative experience, which is good that's it. That's it, literally.
It is absolutely. I must admit, I've been to Brussels and I've been to Bruges, and you know, Andy, who occasionally, and I mean very occasionally, presents the podcast with us. He lived in Brussels for quite a while, and you know, his experience was probably very different to yours. But again, though, if you said you didn't feel safe there, it's probably a little different. Andy and I are both 6'5", you know, and quite burly. But
Yeah.
I know what you're saying about the mannequin piss. It is underwhelming.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, in terms of a monument, and there's also the Janikin piss. I don't know if you get to see that.
No.
That
it rained so much it didn't go out much.
Oh no! So that is it's one of the things that people. I mean, to be fair, it's equally unimpressive. It's a urinating girl. So you got the pissing boy, then you got a urinating girl who's squatting over this thing that's just around the corner from the Delirium bar, the main Delirium bar there. And you know, we wouldn't have found it. But the guy, I tell you what, it was one of the best experiences we've had in terms of hotels and customer service. We bumped into the guy while we were out at night, and he was telling us all the different places to go. And he says, go see the Janikin Pit. Everybody comes to Brussels, and nobody can ever find it. We'll just go around that corner. It's just down there. You know, there was a danger there that he could have been mugging us, but he wasn't. It was all good.
The Janikin Pit. I'll have to remember that. No, I didn't even know about that one. I mean, I was there for a few months as well. Nobody really mentioned it to me. No,
me and Catherine have been to Brussels, and we didn't really like it. Pretty similar vibe to Verdim. It was a long time ago, so it was probably 23, 4 years ago, something like that. But it just didn't feel very clean or safe. But you know, it doesn't mean it isn't. It's just the feeling you get when you're from the outside going into a place. So
yeah, and I think when you're traveling as well, I sort of look at it as a particular experience. So if I'm going to France, I know that I want to go to like nice markets, or like I did a lot of the festivals around France, and they're really great for families. Like Aurillac Festival is fabulous. The whole town turns into a huge festival. There's camping, there's like just activities, there's like, you know, spontaneous acts pop up in the street. You think, you know, sort of like flash mob type things. It's brilliant. And so you can go and have that kind of experience. So I think it's always worth thinking about what type of holiday you want to go for, and go, right, I want some culture, or, you know, or like you want the beach and you just go to the Dominican Republic and sort of lie on the beach or what have you. And that's the way I found I've had the best experiences, because I've kind of almost had in my mind the type of holiday I want to have, and I'll sort of build it as best I can. And then normally it sort of works out for me, and I have that kind of holiday. But like I said, I'm not really a package holiday kind of person. I would never say no to that. If, you know, I've seen some, we were talking about deals before. I've seen some amazing deals this year. And in fact, when I was coming back from Morocco in June, had a bit of a delay, let's say, good old Ryanair delay, 7 hours in Malaga. Bit of a detour, and I got talking to everyone, as you do, as you know, stuck there for 7 hours with nothing to do in a room, and that they'd managed to go. You know, this one woman she was a nurse, and she was like, well, I just came back from Malta. She's come back from Morocco as well. I'm going to Sicily in a few weeks' time, and and they just go off all the time to lovely, sunny, warm places, and pay like, well, she had a week in Sicily for about £350. So, you know, you can do it. And that was with flights, you know, accommodation, like everything. And when you look at the cost of these things now, but because it is, you know, so affordable to fly, and that is CO2 offset flights as well, then you can see why people want to get out and travel more. I think it's great, actually. I think it's just maybe, you know, there will be people that don't necessarily agree with a lot of air travel, and I know that's an issue. But yeah, that's another argument and another conversation, I think, whether or not people want to get down the eco travel route, which, you know, like I said, you need to have money to be able to do that. So it just takes it away from the average traveller. And I think that's a bit of a shame. It's nice just to expand your horizons, not spending too much money.
No, I know what you're saying, and I guess it's one of those things. I know Dave organised another guest for us a couple of months ago now, where we looked at the dangers of what we're doing, you know, what our travel is doing to the planet. But at the same time, you know, and on a personal level, there is a lot to be gained from that. But yeah, I just need to give a quick shout out to Paul Kelly for dropping us a message there. I'm on up to the guaranteed 4 seasons a day and lots of midges, cracking senior and chill vibes. We will get into Haaland. Thank you very much, Paul. If anybody saw the Arsenal game on the weekend, that's just about enough about that. Thank you very much. So yeah, so in terms then of, like you say, it's in terms of saving money, and like you say, as you say, flying really isn't that expensive now. Certainly, if you want to fly into Europe, you know, you can pick up some absolutely cracking deals. You know, sometimes you have to be prepared to travel at unusual times of the day, week, or night. You know, so have you got any other tips?
You do. Well, you know, I actually booked another holiday yesterday, David, and I'm I did, because I am going back to Morocco again in December to go and see some friends, and my tickets were £20 either way. £20. Wow. So when you think about that, it's incredible that it's so cheap. And again, I'm not, you know, they're not all that cheap. There's a certain amount of tickets, that a certain amount of seats. You've got to go at the right time, and you've got to be quick and get them. Not all seats are going to be that. And I am not going on a particularly, you know, well, expensive, you know, airline, let's say. And obviously, yeah, if you're going low cost, there's more risk. You know, you're not going to have that experience. The travel experience might not be always like my Malaga trip. It's not always going to be great. But I don't really care about the traveling there. I'm going there. I don't think about, I'm sat on a plane, I'll put my headphones on, I'll get the seat at the back out the way. I don't bother with drinks or anything like that. I don't even bother getting extra bags. I pack really light because I don't need anything. I stay somewhere where I can wash all my own clothes and everything, so I don't need to take as much stuff. And I can just travel so incredibly cheaply. But I mean, when I am in a country, I will always spend locally and try and support the local economy in some way. That's probably why, in a way, I don't like necessarily staying in big hotels and things like that. I would prefer to sort of stay local. So you can do it cheaply, but I would just say, advice-wise, sign up to all the newsletters. That's what I did, and I get weekly newsletter. I get flash sales. I get any kind of deals that are around. They just go straight into my inbox. I read them. I open them. If you get a newsletter, read it, and I see the deals. And you can join like on Twitter, follow some people on X, anywhere like that, and just see when the deals pop up, really. And that's like Travel Zoo is a really good one I use. They send a weekly newsletter that has got like their top 20 that go really fast. I've had loads of nice holidays to Jersey, Guernsey. I've been to some nice places, just super cheap with them. And that's probably the best thing to do to find good deals and good travel at a low cost. Like I said, it's the type of holiday you want. You need to think about that. And if you don't want to be paying low prices and you want to do the eco travel thing, then this is probably not the best way to do it. This is for people who want to cheap travel and to get out of Blighty. That's the plan.
You say that. Here's a question for you then. A couple of years ago, obviously, we don't like talking about it too much. We had a bit of a pandemic and travel sort of went pear-shaped. Certainly international travel became very, very difficult. And you talk about getting out of the UK. Do you ever staycation? Do you ever travel in the UK?
I do. I do like going to Wales. I live in Oswestry, which is just right on the border of Wales, and we do have beautiful scenery. And I have stayed locally as well. I've found a really good website called Canvas and Stars, or Canopy and Stars, and they do like glamping and all kinds of things all over the place. But they find quite unique places. So there's a place in Ludlow, and you can stay in these beautiful kind of tents which have no like you can see the stars through them, so you sleep literally under the stars in these beautiful, I mean, they're luxurious, but they're not massively expensive. But just for things like that, I think, or going to stay in a little gypsy caravan, like a traditional caravan, and have that kind of experience. I have a friend that's got shepherd's huts, and she's got them on her farm. She's always saying, come down and stay. And I would do that. And I have done that, gone and stayed locally, literally just another county away. I do like that. And yeah, completely, I would. But the irony is, my friend and I wanted to go to Edinburgh recently. We were looking into it, and we just wanted to soak up a bit of, Scottish culture. Edinburgh's beautiful. So we looked at going, and we were like, we don't want to drive. Let's get the train. Let's stay for 2 nights in Edinburgh. And when we priced it up, we were looking at the best part of £400 each for return travel on the, trains, and staying in a nice hotel with breakfast in the center of, we wanted to be close to everything. Now I'm going to spend less than £300, including my flights and including my parking, going to Morocco for a week. So when you look at it like that, you're like, well, where would I rather be? Well, I'd like to go for longer somewhere, and that's why you end up going somewhere that's abroad and that's cheaper. So I think that we could make travel more affordable in this country. I don't want to go on about trains and rail networks and buses and things like that, but we could learn a lot from European countries when it comes to things like that. And that would make things cheaper, and people would be more inclined to stay. I'm sure they would if those things were cheaper. It's expensive over here. That's the problem.
It is, and I know exactly what you're on about in terms of train travel. So I was over in Texas, like I say, a couple of weeks ago, visiting my cousin. Went out there for a wedding, had an absolutely fantastic time. one of the things we talked about there with my cousin and his good friend Ron was him coming over here, then touring around a few of these places. Like we last time he was here, we went up to Edinburgh. We wanted to go there again, Chester, York, Stratford upon Avon, some of these places. Take a train between the two. But gee whiz, when you looked at the cost of that, it'd be cheaper to fly them all over to France and have a cracking time over there. It's crazy.
It is really expensive.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? But the rail networks.
Sorry, Verity. We're talking over. I think there's a bit of a delay. I was just going to say that it is really expensive, and if you want to stay in any of the cities, then the prices then just go straight through the roof. I mean, I was looking to take Catherine away and perhaps just bob over to Paris for a few days, but I thought I wanted to do it. Go on the train ideally straight into the centre of Paris, and then just stay in a hotel that's right in the middle. Paris, just for a few days, and the whole thing. By the time you got in the Eurostar and the train just to get to London, get across to London, it was coming in at best part of £1,000. It was a nice hotel, but it just added up bit by bit, and in the end, it's just like I can't do that. And I know that's Paris and it's the middle of Paris, but it just seemed astronomical. The trains were, to get into London was probably the most expensive part. It's just bonkers.
Yeah, I find that, and having lived in Holland as well, and living with such good rail service, I mean, they're not even a minute late, are they? Like, everything's on time. When I was in Copenhagen, we got the train over to across the bridge, the famous bridge of the TV show. We went over to Malmö. I think they say Malmö. And had just such a lovely time. And the train was so clean, it was so fast. You get Wi-Fi, it's super, super on time. The station, everything. It was actually a really, really nice experience. And I spent a lot of time traveling, rail traveling around France and Spain, Belgium, Holland, Germany, like all of those countries. And I just can't fault their systems. They're just brilliant. And I just think, how is it that we just don't? I think I got the train to London recently, and it was 2 hours delay there. Then we got rerouted to Coventry, and then it was 3 hours delay back. So it was awful. It was awful. I've avoided going to Birmingham at all on the train now, because it's like, I think they must train all the people there just to sort of have a sort of set of expressions they use constantly, that just apologizing for bad travel, because that's all they ever say. They never say anything positive. It's not good. So that's why people go away. Like that's what we're dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things you mentioned there is glamping. Okay, so I went glamping for the first time this year as well. In my 51 years, the first time I've ever been glamping. Now, my wife said to me, "I found this place. It looks fantastic. The kids are going to absolutely love it." We rented a double-decker bus that had been converted. So the downstairs was the living area, the upstairs was the sleeping area. Now, I thought, I tell you what, that's a great novelty. This is going to be a great experience for the kids. The thing I overlooked is it's a double-decker bus, and as I mentioned a few moments ago, I'm 6'5". I spent most of my time stood on the stairs because it was the only place I could stand up straight. It was an absolutely miserable experience being in there.
Oh no! Oh, where was that?
Matlock it was. Matlock. So again, not that far away, but there was plenty of places nearby. I took the kids to Tram Museum, took them to Gulliver's World. They absolutely loved it while I wandered around moaning about my bad back all the time.
Oh yeah, I suppose you've got to do your research. Read the small print.
What do you think about in the news a lot lately is Airbnb in particular causing problems with more and more people turning their properties over to Airbnb, and cities and towns across the world really just been overloaded with tourists, so that they just can't cope anymore. And I was listening on the radio yesterday, I think it was, where they're some estate agents or travel agents are like putting overcrowding sort of indexes to say, if you go here, you're causing a problem, try and go some other time. And then there's a lot of cities that are just locking down on Airbnb completely, aren't they?
Well, yeah, this is what I was saying about the two sides of the argument, though, because it's like these are economies that rely on tourism. So yes, they do need tourists. And then you've got the budget airlines that are, £20 a ticket and what have you. And all these, like, it was a bit like, remember in the 80s when everybody kind of complained about all the high-rise blocks that popped up in Spain and all these like hotels and apartments, and everybody was just like, oh no, this is awful. It's like little Britain everywhere. It's just chip shops and beer and what have you in Torremolinos. Sorry, I keep using that as an example, but you know what I mean. It's people complained about that, and things have sort of evolved again to have changed, and now we're kind of moaning about this situation. I just think it's the way of the world. I think that really, if you're going to have some form of tourism or an economy that relies on tourism, you do have to put up with that kind of thing as well. And I think a lot of this is probably to do with post-COVID and the reaction people have, because, being locked down for the best part of 3 years, we are just all crazy for getting out and seeing the world. So I do think things will probably settle down. I think travel is going to get more expensive again to maybe offset some of the carbon issues. So it will change and people will end up staying in the UK. They're like cycles, aren't they? These things go in cycles. There will be another thing that will happen. Like I said about ecotourism, I know that's on the increase, but it is pretty much an expensive sort of thing. So maybe people will either get back to that kind of mentality of really saving for a holiday, where they save all year and they go off on that type of holiday. So, I mean, who knows how it's going to go. I agree. Yes, there is obviously issues with that, but it's also a free market and people can kind of do that. And this is supplementing some people's, living and what have you. So I don't know. I've got a mixed view on it. I think more important to me is that how I behave and how I treat people when I'm traveling, and the experiences I get and how I am and how I represent myself and my country is really important. And I think that's where my focus is when I travel. I'm not worrying about all that stuff. You could worry about everything, couldn't you? You just never go anywhere if that's what you thought about, really.
100%.
And like I said, I want to get out of Blighty, go somewhere nice and warm.
That's it. God bless it. That's the one thing you don't get here is the weather, for absolute sure. So, just out of interest, then, you've got your trip booked then for later this year. As you're just telling Dave, hopefully you booked your holidays in with him first. We know how this works on a
I did.
So, what have you got any dream destinations that you've never visited? Somewhere that you'd love to go to?
What, on bucket list kind of places? Yeah, I do. There's loads of places I'd love to go. But it's weird when you think about what makes a bucket list place. I don't know what it is. It's almost like your expectation of something, what you think it's going to be like. It's informed by your frame of reference, might be movies or Conversations or books or what have you. But I have always wanted to go to New Orleans. That is on my bucket list. I've never been there. I've only been to New York, and I just really, really want to go there. I love France. I'm quite a Francophile, so that's got the sort of French vibe going on there, and it just to me sounds like the sort of place I would enjoy going. So that's on there. I want to go to Rio de Janeiro. That's another one. I've never been to South America. I'd love to visit South America. And I would really like to go to Japan as well. I think it would just be a very unique experience. Everybody I know who has been there has just had wonderful things to say about it. So they'd probably be my key places. But I also been reading quite a lot about other areas in Eastern Europe. So Riga in Latvia and Albania and places like that. They seem to be really growing in popularity. People say, they're hidden gems, because obviously they had Eastern Bloc countries have been kind of shut off to the world, and now they're a lot more accessible. So I would really like to explore some of those countries, because I don't really know Eastern Europe very well. The closest I've got is wanting to go to Prague and what have you. But there's lots and lots of places. I would, to be quite honest with you, I'd go anywhere. I'm really, like, if somebody said to me, let's go here, let's go. I'd go. If I hadn't been there, I'd want to explore it. But yeah, bucket list, definitely New Orleans. That's the next place I'd like to go in the next couple of years for sure.
Yeah,
When I've got my big birthday, I'm going to go there.
Okay, yeah. Well, your 21st. So yeah, I mean, in terms of New Orleans, I must admit, it's on my bucket list as well. So my cousin, like I say, lives in Texas. Before he lived there, he lived in Biloxi in Mississippi, and that's not that far away from New Orleans. He used to go there all the time, and he loves that place. Yeah, he absolutely loves New Orleans, and it's absolutely on my bucket list too. And in terms of Riga as well,
it just sounds like it's going to be amazing, that place. You know, long iced teas and, you know, the bayou and having gumbo and all that kind of thing. I'm sure there's more. I know there's a lot more to it than that, but that's what I mean about the frame of reference that you get for things. For some reason, that seems to hit a note with me, and I think, yeah, that would be something I'd enjoy. You know.
No, I get that. Dave, is anyone on your bucket list you absolutely have to visit?
Crikey. I haven't really got a bucket list. I mean, Japan is up there. I think Albert really wants to go to Japan. Catherine would like to. Alice, not so keen. And like Verity, everyone we know that's been there is said it's a great place to go. So I think that's one. But other than that, it's, you know, for me, it's get rid of the kids and get some time and sort of do the sort of thing that Verity's just been talking about. When you've got I know Verity's got kids, but when you've got the freedom to not have to consider other people other than yourselves, and you can just literally think, okay, what's come on the email alert that you can go there for 40 quid for 4 nights, and you think, okay, well, let's book it and go. I think I'm quite looking forward to just having that freedom just to go to a lot of places for perhaps short stays, just to see it and experience it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I'm talking about, and that's what I don't have the time. I'm a parent, and I have 2 children. You know, they're 12 and 14, so you know they're pretty self-contained now, but obviously they still need their mum. They're still young, but it just means that that's why my trips, my time that I spend away is always a week, or, you know, 5 days or 4 days, and you can fit that in quite nicely in your time off because you've got weekends. And that is why I end up that's probably why I look like I'm going lots of places. It's just because I'm going for short journeys each time, and getting to know somewhere. You know, that's how I've got to know Morocco, going for a week here, a week there, and exploring it and getting to know it. And I think that if you can, you know, the kids can go stay with grandparents, what have you, for a week. You know, you can book that holiday to Malta for £300 for both of you, and because you spent so little going there, you actually can eat in beautiful restaurants when you're there, and really have a lovely time, have quite a luxurious experience as well. If that's if you like that sort of thing. You don't have to do it on a budget. If you don't spend much getting there and your accommodation's cheap, then why not? David, you work very hard. You deserve it.
Thanks, Verity.
He tells us he works hard. We don't believe him.
He's very good.
I know exactly what you say. So, like I say, when I went to Texas this year, this is the first time in my 51 years I've ever traveled alone, ever been to an airport by myself. Always gone with a wife, you know, and we've always traveled together. And I've got to tell you this: traveling, I probably shouldn't have told it as vociferously as I did when I got back. Traveling by yourself, so easy. Literally, you can do what you want when you want. I don't need a second opinion about where the airport gate is. If I want to go to Lou, I can go to Lou. If I want to go belly up to the bar and watch basketball for 40 minutes and, you know, cut it close to getting on that flight and drink some 9% beer, that's what I'm going to do. And I tell you what, it was a fantastic experience. I love traveling by myself.
It's really good for you. It's good for you to do that. I think, you know, it's as long as you're safe and you know where you're going and what have you. That's 100% why I love traveling. I'm on my own quite often. It's just up to me. You know, if I'm late, it's on me. I'm never late when I'm traveling, funnily enough. I'm always on time to the airport. I think being able to do that really just is a really enriching experience. I mean, Texas sounds amazing as well. That sounds like a really great idea to go somewhere like that. And you don't want to have the hassle of anything else. Just immerse yourself in the experience. So you enjoyed it, I take it.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. So it was my second visit to Texas. We went last year. I took the family last year. So me, the wife, and the two kids. We went out there. We stayed with my cousin, and this time we went to a wedding. So it was my cousin's stepson's wedding. What an experience! Just we're probably going to talk about that on a later episode, but yeah, it was incredible to go to one of those. And if you've ever seen any line dancing, or if you've ever seen, there was no line dancing there, but if you've ever seen a country western and anything like that, you can picture it. You can picture the guys in the cowboy hats drinking whiskey in this huge hall, and with the music playing. It was the experience of a lifetime. Yeah. I was only there for a very short period of time because I could only take a short period of time off work, and it was quite costly because of the flights to the States, but worth every penny, every minute I spent there. I would do it again tomorrow if the opportunity came up.
That's what I mean about the experiences. You see, when you go somewhere. So when I'm in Morocco, I'm having my friends cooking Moroccan food for me, and I've got their music's playing, and there's conversation going around, and you're in the thick of what it's actually like for people from that place. You're not just having a sort of sterile touristic experience. You got that because you're at a family wedding. You've got the people, the food, the music, the clothing, the access, like everything. It's all part of the sort of rich experience of travel, and that's why I think that's the absolute best way to go and stay with people or do that. You can even do the sort of home to go where you actually stay in someone's house, do like house swaps. There's loads and loads of things you can do to really get a feel for the place, and visit friends, and then you make friends, and then those friends ask you to go back, and then you've got cheap accommodation when you want to go somewhere. It all makes sense.
It does. More tips. David, you got any tips to add to the mix?
No, but the thing about going and immersing yourselves in the thing in the local area, we've got friends. Catherine went to university with Heike and Gunnis, and they live in Wittlich in Germany, and they have every year they have something called the Pig Festival, which is something that's been celebrated for God knows how long. There's an awful lot of pigs killed. Don't go there if you're vegetarian. And they're all barbecued all around the town, and there's beer, and I think it's a 3 or 4 day festival, and the whole town is decked out, and it's a carnival atmosphere. And we've been to that and just stayed with them for that time. And it is that and you meet all of their friends, and it's just awesome. It's a different kind of relaxation. There's quite a lot going on at the same time as feeling completely at ease. It's that feeling at home when you're not. It's all very different, but it's very relaxing, and it's very enjoyable. And I absolutely agree with Verity. It's a great way of learning different cultures and experiencing it.
Yeah. I think that's probably, Dave, you know me, I like languages and travel and culture and that. And it's partly because you end up feeling like you make these little kind of communities or friendships and things like that. And, if you can live your life and get to a nice age and look back and see that you've created rich friendships with people from other places, because, that's, for me, part of life, just getting to see other things and other people. And I think that's a really nice thing to be able to say that I've made friends from somewhere else. It definitely opens your eyes to lots of different things in the world. I think it makes you more empathetic. It makes you a better person, more patient. There's lots and lots of skills and attributes I think I found from language learning that all feeds into the same thing. I could talk about travel forever because at the end of the day, without using that overused expression, it is about a feeling happy, balanced. It's really good for your mental health to go and do something like that. And also just to put yourself a little bit outside of your comfort zone, like going on your own to Texas, could have had issues and what have you. You'd have to deal with them. Thankfully, it sounds like it was fine. But, all of those things, it sort of builds a bit of resilience, doesn't it? Being able to cope with things if they go wrong. My kids, when I was walking around Copenhagen at like nearly 1 a.m, not knowing where we were and being completely lost, they were actually looked at me and they knew they were okay with me. They were like, my mum's got this. Like, she knows what she's doing. Because I do, because I travel and I understand that. And, you just need to ask people. People will help you. Most people in the world that I've come across are good. I have to say, I very, very rarely had bad experiences. And I would say most people, when you meet them, they want to meet you, they want to be nice, they want to help and be friendly. So it's good. It sort of reminds you that people are good at heart as well. So
yeah, I think we always try to wrap it up round about the hour mark, and I do think that's a really nice thought to leave it on as well. I totally agree with you. The vast majority of people out there are very, very, very good and kind. They're a very small minority, then we can't let it spoil it for everyone. No, absolutely. And I always say this about when it's our time to go, we're lying there, we're taking in our last breath. We won't be thinking about the houses that we lived in, the cars that we owned, or the stuff that we've managed to gather. We'll think about those experiences that we've had and we've shared with other people. Hopefully my kids look at me in the same way, but I suspect they see me as I am, an absolute liability wherever I am and what I'm doing. But nonetheless, I take some joy from that.
Definitely. I agree. I think that's the way to be, and that's the way to live your life. And, travel, it enriches the mind and it enriches the soul. All those cliches, they're a cliche for a reason. And, it's because it's true. So I think just got to keep doing it. David, to find some nice places to visit, keep going, trying different things. I'll expect a report from Malta whenever you go. When you get your cheap trip to Malta, I'll send you links to the newsletters so that you can sign up and get all the great deals that I get.
Yeah, I got to wait for the kids to leave home first, Verity.
You don't. That's my point.
These kids
They'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Kids do listen to this podcast. Yeah, clear off the pair of you.
They'll be like, off you go. Yeah, I remember having parties at home when my parents went away. So yeah, I won't do that.
So we are around about the hour mark. Verity, if you'd like to say your goodbyes to our listeners.
Yeah, thank you for listening. I hope everybody's going to go and do more traveling now and learn a new language and things like that. It's been great talking to you today. So thank you for having me on and talk about travel. Like I said, I can talk about that till the cows come home.
Absolutely. It's been great to have you. Listen, we love to live vicariously through other people's stories as well. So it's been great to hear your stories of the different places you visited. Hopefully it inspired Dave to do some of them. I know it certainly inspired me. Copenhagen is absolutely on my list. New Orleans is on my list as well. So if you do it first, be sure to share those stories with us.
For sure. No problem. I will do.
Dave, any final thoughts?
It's been great to have you on the podcast, Verity. Thank you very much for jumping in at short notice.
No problem.
For anyone that listens to our podcast, the guests we have, we love it when people come on and share their experiences and their passions. I always find it fascinating, even if it's somebody I already know. It gives me the opportunity to learn some more about the people we're talking to and about their experiences. And I think it's educational and hopefully interesting. So I've certainly enjoyed it. So thank you, Verity.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, David.
And not only that, we've had some top tips as well, which you can get some use out of, some newsletters to be signed up to there, no doubt, and some other tips that you can use. Next week, we're back and we're going to be talking to Marique, who was a New York City police officer. I know we promised we were going to do that this week, but we had to rearrange, and that's where we are, and that's absolutely fine. So we will catch you next week. It just leads me to say thank you, Verity, for joining us. Really enjoyed hearing about your travel stories. It's giving me itchy feet, you know what I mean? I've got one holiday booked. I might have to book another one now before I go off line tonight. So thank you very much, everybody, and good night.